All right, so another top 25 matchup at Notre Dame Stadium, but this time as the home opener, something that hasn't happened in Marcus Freeman's coaching career with the Irish.
Yes, let's take a look back at Freeman's record in home opening games. Not as good as you might think.
Right.
Starting with his first home game back in 2022, a tough 21-26 loss against Marshall. I'm sure a lot of fans still remember that result, unfortunately.
Yeah, that one was a big one for Notre Dame. Of course, he started this Notre Dame Fighting Irish as the head coach with that loss against Ohio State in week 1. Then he went 0-2 with that loss against Marshall. And again, this was a team that, didn't really give a lot offensively. And it was like they kept Marshall in this game time after time.
They really just allowed them to stick around in this game. And I mean, you mentioned it, that loss to Ohio State, you kind of expect that on the road against the big opponent. And losing to Marshall, really, really tough way to start Marcus Freeman's head coaching career. Was able to bounce back and have a 9-4 season, though. Now let's go to 2023 where the Irish, they took care of business, beating Tennessee State 56-3. And Sabrina, that's kind of what you're supposed to do in a game like that.
You kind of have to have a bounce back win right after that 1 year that he had that loss to Marshall, kind of bounce back to Tennessee State. Again, they only gave them 3 points. I know Sam Hartman had a great game in that. Audric Estime had a great game in that. But that's something that you need to have in a coaching career.
That's exactly what you want out of your home opener right there. And that's something you don't want last year. A loss. Yeah. We all remember this one. Heartbreaking 14-16 loss to Northern Illinois. Sabrina, what do you just kind of remember most about that day?
It reminded me of that Marshall game. I mean, you allowed, Notre Dame offense to not really get going, didn't really find a lot of rhythm. They allowed Northern Illinois to stay in this game. And again, we know how the season ended. Obviously, that was their only loss. They made it to the national championship game, so they handled success. But again, not a great loss for them.
I mean, in the moment, it just was heartbreaking. You thought that this could be out of the playoffs.
Exactly.
That this could be the end of the playoff chances for Notre Dame. Hindsight being 2020, we know that loss spurred them on to everything they were able to accomplish, getting to the national title game. But you're right, allowing Northern Illinois to stay in a game like that, you see the kind of, how hyped up they were. You just don't want to allow them to stay in it. And the reason they were able to stay in it, turnovers. Against a team like that, especially in home openers, you don't want the turnovers because then the crowd all of a sudden starts switching on you and you don't have that home field advantage. It's almost a home field disadvantage at that point.
Exactly.
Now to this year's home opener against Texas A&M, a little bit different of an opponent as the Aggies come in ranked number 16 and they're 2-0 for just the second time since 2017.
And this is going to be a big question mark, of course. This is another ranked opponent, obviously coming off that loss against Miami, but this is a different Texas A&M team. They have a new quarterback at the helm, new receivers, but this is still a talented SEC team that Notre Dame's going to face.
I mean, you mentioned that right there, SEC. Whenever you see those 3 letters in college football with that conference, you know it's a quality opponent. Even if it's Mississippi State, even if it's Vanderbilt, it's always a top-to-down, really tough conference. And you mentioned just how different of a team it is, the different QB with Marcel Reed, just different playmakers all over on both sides of the ball. It's going to be really important for Notre Dame to show up in this game tonight because as we talked about earlier in the show, look at that schedule. As of right now, this is the last top 25 game on the schedule, so this is super, super important.
Exactly.